I will tell you what, I don't think we've seen a crazier single day on the sports calendar than what we had on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I am here to say that might be one of, if not the craziest days on the sports calendar ever. It felt like you look this way, there's news. You look this way, there's news. It felt like it was coming at you from all directions, whether it was the NBA or the NFL. Something was happening, and you're like, oh, I got to hear about that. Wait, no, I got to hear about that. What the hell?
It was an omen because this week was the 6-year anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic. On this day, today actually, March 12th, 2026, was the day that we found out that the conference tournaments for the NCAA were canceled because of the pandemic. It was maybe the most wildest week in sports history. And 6 years later, as it sort of all falls on the same day of the week, the sports world just said, you know what? Let's make things crazy.
Yeah. Because we had the second highest scoring game in NBA history. We had a trade where one team got cold feet and said, nah, we don't want to do it. We had a potential NBA Finals preview, and we're getting another one tonight. It was nuts.
And don't forget, we had USA falling in the World Baseball Classic to Italy, of all teams.
I'm telling you, like, the sports machine does not stop turning. Even, like, with all this off-season stuff. Once free agency hit, it was like, that person's going to this team. That person's going to this team. Oh, we have a trade.
No, I told you before, my favorite shows that we do are actually not during the season. They are literally this month of March. My favorite shows to do are sort of the what ifs, the anticipation, the talk about everything. So we're going to start tonight by hitting the big notes of NFL free agency. Of course, we cannot cover every single move that every team made because we would be here for 5 hours. But the biggest headline was obviously, so Maxx Crosby was a Raven, and then he wasn't. The Ravens put out a statement saying that it's because he failed his physical. The Raiders did not put that out in their statement. Many in the NFL circles believe the Ravens just felt, like they got cold feet, and it is partially backed up because the very next day they agreed to a contract with Trey Henderson for $112 million.
This whole situation, it's one of the most confusing I've ever seen because the Raiders thought they had this trade in place, and they go out and make a bunch of moves in free agency, and we start looking at them like, okay, they're starting to turn things around. They go and get Kenneth Walker from the Green Bay Packers. They go out and sign your guy, Nakobe Dean. And you're like, okay, they're surrounding the presumptive number 1 overall pick, Fernando Mendoza, with a decent team. Not one that I don't think that's going to compete for a Super Bowl, but maybe one that could sneak in as a wild card potentially. I don't think fight for the division, but possibly wild card. And now I'm like, I don't know what to make of this. Because here's the thing. Again, the Raiders, they acted like this trade was going to happen. Nothing was going to happen. They probably were putting plans in place of like, now we have 2 first-round picks. What are we going to do with those? Like I said, they go out and spend all this money on free agency, and now Maxx Crosby is back in their building.
So here's the other thing. Maxx Crosby yesterday on X posted the gif of The Undertaker coming out of the coffin and basically saying, hey, Raider Nation, I'm back. There's a lot of speculation out there. Everybody's saying that's not true. The Raiders are going to trade him. The Raiders went ahead and they did sign all of those free agent deals, including getting Tyler Linderbaum, the greatest contract for an offensive lineman, maybe in the history of the NFL at $27 million a year for a center to anchor the offensive line for Fernando Mendoza. The Raiders can keep Maxx Crosby and still be, in that salary cap under the cap. If I'm the Raiders, honestly, Josh, Maxx Crosby is a pro's pro. He obviously, it went south last year with what I would argue an old Raiders regime. This is not the same Raiders. It's a new general manager, obviously a new head coach in Kubiak. They're going to have a new quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. There's reports out there they could even go ahead and sign Kirk Cousins potentially to either start for the first few games of the season and then hand it to Mendoza or just back up Mendoza. I'm telling you right now, if I'm the Raiders, I keep Maxx Crosby on my roster. He's going to be a Raider. He is a top 2 to 3 edge rusher in the league. I use my other picks in the draft. I'll go get another receiver. I'll go get maybe another offensive lineman, another defensive lineman. I think Maxx Crosby, the way I look at it now, he's almost like an addition to this all-new Raiders team. And last year, we saw the Patriots, and I know Drake May was in his second year, but we saw them go from worst team in the league to the Super Bowl. 2 years ago, we saw the Commanders with a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels go from one of the worst teams in the league, terrible ownership, to the NFC Championship game. I'm not sitting here today saying the Raiders are going to make the AFC Championship game, but I'm telling you right now, it's going to depend on what they do in the draft. I don't think it's out of the neck of the woods if the Raiders win the AFC West next season.
The AFC West is going to be fascinating. I think you can make an argument it's either the AFC West or the NFC West that's going to be the best division in football.
I completely actually disagree with that. I think there's one answer to that question, and to me, it's not even close. I think the best division in football is the NFC North.
God, you can make an argument for any of the three. I really believe that. I really do.
Well, I think the argument is Arizona is not going to be good next year. Vegas, again, I think is going to be pretty good, though we don't know. If Minnesota, and they're rumored to potentially go for Kyler Murray, they have a top 3 defense. If Kyler Murray plays the way that he played at the start of his Arizona career with Kevin O'Connell, if Minnesota is the worst team in that division, excuse me, they won 9 games last year with JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. Which, if the Vikings do sign Kyler, I think that signals the end of J.J. McCarthy's time in Minnesota, but we can address that in a separate topic another day. In terms of this, though, I think this has major consequences, not just for the Ravens and the Raiders, but think about all the other teams affected. Dallas, Chicago. There's probably other teams who are interested in Maxx Crosby that, like Buffalo, for example, Tampa Bay, maybe. And again, how do we know that with Maxx Crosby going back on their books, they're going to be able to keep the likes of Tyler Linderbaum, Walker, Nakobe Dean?
Because they have $130 million in cap space, and they only spend like 70 or 80 million of it. So they add the cap space because you have to be at a certain cap number by the start of the year. So if they didn't, they would have had to let some of those guys go already. They signed all the guys they agreed to.
Fair, but it seemed like they went out and did this spending spree because they did not think Maxx Crosby was going to be on their books.
Exactly. But again, you can spend a little bit more when you have more money to spend, obviously. But they do have, the capabilities to keep Maxx Crosby. I would, and I do want to switch gears to the Ravens side of things because, some people have come out and they have said that, Baltimore does feel like a little bit of a dysfunctional organization now. Maybe John Harbaugh got out of it at the right time, seeing the train running down the tracks. I think the Ravens felt like they could get Trey Anderson and keep an extra first-round pick. He's not the player that Maxx Crosby is. Certainly not. But he is a very productive player. And Baltimore is going to need good defensive talent on the cheap because Lamar Jackson's going to cost so much. They're going to extend him this offseason. And now they need to rebuild that offensive line with Linderbaum and some others leaving. So I think the Ravens are a good team. But as I told you a year ago, as we headed into the season, I thought it was going to be a slow decline for Baltimore. I did not think that Maxx Crosby was the missing piece to get Baltimore over the hump against Kansas City and Buffalo. I don't think Trey Anderson is either. And so, from that perspective, I get why Baltimore got cold feet.
My whole thing is Baltimore knew he was having, I think it was knee issues, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Like,
he got surgery as
yeah,
soon as the regular season ended.
yeah. And I believe he had just come off of crutches like a week ago or something.
Correct.
So,
Remember, they did this very similar to the Eagles at the trade deadline. Remember, my Eagles traded for Jair Alexander, and then he all of a sudden immediately retired. You look at those two deals. Is that something that's going to play in where maybe front offices are hesitant to work with Baltimore moving forward?
I would be. If I'm a team, like, I would be extremely hesitant to make a deal with Baltimore because they seem to back off their word or back. You know what I'm trying to say there.
Well, they've always been a stable organization. They have always drafted well. These two actions are un-Baltimore like. I disagree with the notion that some people are trying to throw out there that now they're dysfunctional. You're not a dysfunctional franchise if you back out of a deal. You just back out of a deal because maybe it didn't work out the way you thought. Again, I think the Trey Anderson development played a factor. I absolutely do. I don't buy the fact that he failed his physical because I think that other teams have medical records. And again, you're from Ohio. I understand it. I know how this is going to sit with Browns fans and Steelers fans and Bengals fans. Um, I don't think that this deal would have made the Ravens significantly better. I think Maxx Crosby is better than Trey Anderson, certainly. But Baltimore has a lot of issues now. They have a lot of holes. They can fill those holes in the draft, but I still would not call them the favorites today in the AFC North.
Oh, I would. The Steelers we don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. And do you really trust a wide receiver room led by DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman? I don't.
I'll tell you who I do trust. I trust a healthy Joe Burrow. Now, maybe that's my mistake. I tell you this every year. I will make the same mistake over and over again because I am insane. Every year until if they're healthy the whole year, I absolutely believe the Cincinnati Bengals are the best team in the AFC North.
And that's the thing. They don't stay healthy. Their offensive line continues to be like a turnstile at an amusement park.
Well, here's the thing, though. So does Baltimore. Lamar Jackson has been out of the lineup for 3 out of the last 5 seasons. Their offensive line now, I believe they lost the right tackle as well, both guards, as well as Linderbaum. And, Jesse Minter's a very good defensive coach. We don't know how that offense is going to change without Todd Monken and John Harbaugh there.
Yeah. And with the Cleveland Browns, it sounds like number 4 could be the starting quarterback again. Lord help us if that's the case.
For the record, you mentioned Pittsburgh. I do really like the Pippen signing, and I think that they are all in on bringing back Aaron Rodgers. Mike McCarthy's an offensive coach. Pippen's there. Metcalf's there. TJ Watt is still going to be there. They bring back Cam Hayward. Their secondary is pretty decent. Joey Porter Jr. is back. I think Jalen Ramsey, I believe, will be back. Don't discount Pittsburgh.
No, I'm not. But I don't trust Mike McCarthy as head coach. He didn't do anything in Dallas.
He's a bump on a log, but he did win. Don't say he didn't win anything in Dallas. He did win 12 straight games 3 years in a row.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
But
But
you act like he didn't accomplish anything. That's an accomplishment. I mean,
yes, but like I didn't feel like he did anything truly significant
he
while he was.
doesn't, but I'll tell you what he does do. He wins regular season games at
He
this point in
hasn't
his career.
he hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2010.
Guess what? There's a lot of coaches in the league that haven't even won a Super Bowl. Again, I don't think Mike McCarthy is a special coach either, but his resume is literally the same resume as John Harbaugh and Sean Payton. Sean Payton hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2009.
And yet I trust Sean Payton more than I do Mike McCarthy.
Again, it's an optics thing because Mike McCarthy has terrible PR. That's all it is.
And it feels like when he runs the offense, that offense is set in the Stone Age.
All right. Well, we got to get to an offense that's going to get a lot better because Kenneth Walker goes from winning the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl MVP. The Seahawks say, we got Zach Charbonnet. Maybe he's coming off an injury, but we really don't want to pay you, Kenneth Walker. And he says, fine, let me go to the team that, even though they missed the playoffs a year ago, had been to 5 out of the last 7 Super Bowls. They have the Super Bowl caliber. Andy Reid, we know his history. Eric Bieniemy is back there as offensive coordinator. To me, if Patrick Mahomes is back and ready to go week 1, this is a great signing, obviously, for the Chiefs. And this is something that they have needed in their offense. Since Isaiah Pacheco got that knee injury a few years ago, he has not been the same, and their running game has not been the same. This is almost, to me, like Saquon Barkley after the Eagles had DeAndre Swift. Like, Pacheco's a good back. DeAndre Swift was a good back. He's not Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, to me, will completely change the way defenses guard the Chiefs' offense. And you're bringing back Kelsey. Assume Rashid Rice will be there for a whole season, along with Xavier Worthy. If Mahomes is back, which I do think he will be, because as we've seen with Jason Tatum, young people recover faster from injuries. It's scary to think about.
Yeah. I'm definitely not writing the Chiefs obituary. And by the way, I did not do that when they missed the playoffs last season. I felt like that was just a blip on the radar.
Well, again, I think we can have a different conversation about, is the dynasty over versus are they dead as a team? Because I think that's 2 different conversations.
That I agree with. But I want to take this from the Seattle perspective because, they were using Zach Charbonnet more in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
They really didn't turn to Kenneth Walker until Charbonnet went down with that injury. And K9 gets on the scene, and you're like, why weren't you using him earlier? So, from Kenneth Walker's perspective, why would I resign with the team that didn't realize how good of a running back I am until their other back went down? So,
and also, did you know this? Right before the start of their playoff run, he fired his agent. He hired a new agent as soon as they started that playoff run against San Francisco in the divisional round. So, this was coming. What I always heard going into the season, I think I told you this early in the year, Seattle reportedly liked Charbonnet's running style more for Clint Kubiak's offense, which is that outside zone, a lot of north and south downhill. And they felt like Kenneth Walker would just miss holes. Where in Kansas City, Mahomes is in the gun more than under center. They're going to run a lot more inside zone on a shotgun, which is very difficult to go east-west. So it's going to force you to run more in between the tackles. He's a good threat out of the backfield, which Andy Reid loves to use running backs in the screen game. We know that. That's where I think that this signing will have a big impact because I think he's going to have a big year actually in the passing game. If Mahomes does come back, he's not going to have the mobility he once has. They're going to check it down to Walker. They're going to throw to Rice underneath. Kelsey will get his yards underneath. It's going to be a very hot, boom, quick passing game, run the football type of offense that Kansas City is going to implement.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what type of quarterback Mahomes is when he comes back coming off of this injury.
True, because we've seen Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins a couple years ago were not the same quarterback they were this past season.
Right. I think the quarterback we see Mahomes as this season will not be the same quarterback we see Mahomes as in 2027.
Here's the question though. Is 60 or 70% of Mahomes still the best quarterback in the AFC West? I'm not even going to say AFC or the NFL. In that division, Fernando Mendoza, I think is going to be really good, but I don't think he's going to be great as a rookie because almost no quarterbacks are great as rookies outside of Jaden Daniels. Justin Herbert, a lot of people love Justin Herbert. Fact of the matter is, he's got a 500 record as a career quarterback. You like Bo Nix more than I do. I think this is going to be a really interesting year for Bo Nix in Denver because all of a sudden Denver went from the top dog in that division to they have not made any moves whatsoever as far as I can see.
Yeah. And Bo Nix suffered that injury, in the Buffalo game.
Yep.
So we'll see what type of quarterback he is come 2026. So the AFC West is really interesting in terms of quarterbacks. I feel like I have to give the edge to Mahomes just because, we know what we're going to get for the most part from Mahomes. I would say Bo Nix is probably number 2 on that list. I wouldn't say it's a large gap between Mahomes and Bo Nix. I feel like it's pretty even. That's my opinion. Not because Mahomes isn't great or he doesn't have all these accomplishments and accolades. I get it. I'm just talking about watching what I see from them on the field. I'm taking all the accolades.
My opinion is by the end, or I should say actually, because I think Mendoza is going to get better as 2026 goes on. By the end of the 2026 season, heading into the 2027 NFL season, assuming all 4 quarterbacks are where they are today, and assuming the Raiders take Fernando Mendoza, Bo Nix will be viewed. It's going to be a very small gap, but I think out of all 4 quarterbacks, Bo Nix will be viewed as the one who could carry his team the least. In terms of talent, that's how I think it'll be talked about.
See, I disagree with that because Herbert hasn't shown that he can carry the Chargers.
But in terms of talent, some people already think Herbert is more talented than Mahomes. You get what I'm saying?
I think so, but
meaning in terms of traits, in terms of physicality, in terms of you can carry a franchise, you are the lug of an NFL quarterback. I think Bo Nix will be viewed as an outlier because if he's as good as you think he is, he will essentially be what Sean Payton had in Drew Brees. But I don't think he's that when it comes to reading the field yet.
This is one of those conversations where I don't think there's a wrong answer. I truly don't.
This is what sports talk in March is about.
Yes, but in terms of the Chiefs offense, I think it's going to have a major impact. I do think they should go out and get Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, as well. Because we've
seen. Here's why I disagree with that. I don't think you pay Kenneth Walker the money they did. If they would have signed, I don't know, back to a 1-year deal, maybe like a Nick Chubb or somebody, and then they go out and they draft. Well, I'm okay with that. I don't think you give Kenneth Walker a 4-year deal over $20 million a year to then draft another running back when you have a quarterback like Mahomes.
Well, I say that because we've seen teams have success with a 2 running back system. Look at how effective Detroit was with Sonic and Knuckles.
Did they get to a Super Bowl though? because Detroit just moved off Montgomery. Why? Because Gibbs got better. Gibbs was not at the level Kenneth Walker's at now was not at the level Gibbs was at until last year. And once he hit that level, what have they done? They have moved off Montgomery.
True. But do you get what I'm saying, at least to a certain extent?
If you had, like if you're the Jets, if you have Geno Smith as your quarterback, if you want to pay 2 running backs, sure. Now when you're paying Mahomes, like Buffalo, I would not draft Jeremiah Love. If I was Buffalo, I have James Cook. Now when I'm paying Josh Allen, James Cook, DJ Moore, I can't pay 2 running backs. I have other positions. Kansas City's going to have to pay Worthy. They have paid Walker now at this point. So you need to use that number 9 pick on the defensive side of the ball to draft another corner to replace McDuffie or another interior defensive tackle to eventually replace Chris Jones.
And I believe they also lost Watson on the other
The
side.
safety, yeah. So again, that is what I believe the formula is in today's NFL. Pay your offense, keep your defense cheap, draft your defense, and then let them go and draft and keep replenishing.
I know McDuffie went to the Rams. Did Watson also go to the Rams?
I believe Watson went to New England, but I could be wrong.
Okay. I thought he went to the Rams as well.
You are right, actually, Watson did go to the Rams.
Okay. I really like that for the Rams. But anyway, in terms of the Chiefs, I think the play action game is going to be deadly for them now. That's where I think this move helps them the most. Yes, the running game gets a massive upgrade, but really for me, it's the play action game that really takes a giant step forward.